live. This is another incredible cook along with American Express. We are going to be making my summer corn risotto. It is truly just like such an easy, delicious recipe that just happens to be vegan and gluten-free, but not like intentionally, just is. And it relies on so much flavor. We're getting like every ounce of flavor out of the corn. So I hope you all cook along with me and let's get started. This is something I started before we went live, and this is a corn cob stock. So I took all of the corn off of the cobs. What I do is I love to use one big bowl and then one little bowl, and I use that to really easily take all of the kernels off of the cob. And then from there, I have reserved the kernels here to cook up in a second. And the cobs went into a pot with 8 cups of water, a few sprigs of thyme, 2 bay leaves, and some smashed garlic. It's kind of like you're just making a veg stock, but with corn. And since corn is like starchy, you're making like starchy water, and we're doing this in risotto. So it's gonna be starchy water and starchy rice, and it's just gonna be like starchy and creamy and delicious and everything you want. We got the cob stock going. Next up, we're going to do is cook up our kernels, because one of the tricks is this recipe is vegan. However, I wanted to still have that really luscious mouthfeel that you would get when you had tons of butter and mascarpone and cheese and all that goodness. So instead, what I do is we saute up corn, and half of the corn goes into the blender with some coconut cream, and that's what creates that absolutely delicious velvety feel to it. I got a pan here, gonna turn it on medium-high heat. What we're gonna do is, since we are keeping this vegan and I'm using coconut cream, why not keep it the same? And we'll do some coconut oil. So I have 2 tablespoons here. We're gonna get that melted. And then I'm just gonna really like look to cook through the corn and get some color on it. We'll season it up. And that's kind of just it in terms of that part. The idea is that like, why just add raw corn and then like poach the corn when you could cook it first? It's one extra step, one extra pan, but you add so much more flavor and caramelization and deliciousness. I don't want people to think that because it's vegan, you have to be like depriving yourself or it's not gonna taste good. We're just using alternative fats, alternative ways to create textures, and it's still gonna be absolutely delicious. If you're not a fan of coconut, yeah, use regular heavy cream. Or mascarpone is great. You could totally unveganize this recipe, which I also love. If you're not a fan of coconut, using cashew cream, again, another step. Soak your cashews overnight in water and then blend them with a little bit of fresh water until it's got that beautiful creamy consistency, and then use that to blend with corn. In fact, you could just soak them and then add the soaked cashews with half of the corn in the blender, so you don't have to blend twice. I'm gonna give this some love with a little salt and pepper. And it's super important to really like start to cook through your corn before you kind of incorporate it into a dish like a risotto. Anything that's gonna be like finished with it, you wanna make sure that the item is completely cooked through so you don't risk overcooking the rice. Pot over medium heat, I'm adding another 2 tablespoons of coconut oil. And this is what I'm going to use to start to sweat our aromatics. And that's gonna be some diced onion. All right, I'm gonna add in my onions. This is just 1 medium yellow onion. We're gonna just start to cook that down. Again, you wanna hear a sizzle, but it shouldn't sound like really, really loud, because then you're gonna risk caramelizing them, and you do not want it. All right, so this is good. I'm gonna turn this off since this has gotten some nice color. We have our corn, which is done. We are sweating the onions. We have our stock going here. We wanna make sure we are simmering it. It needs to be at a simmer when we start to add it. We're going to add in our rice to the onions. I have 2 cups of arborio rice. You need arborio, carnaroli. You need a short grain rice. Short grain needs higher starch. It's gonna give you that beautiful creamy texture you're looking for. And now it's all about agitation. You gotta mechanically just like move that rice, start to release that starch, and that's what's gonna give it that super creamy consistency. So what we're doing right now is we're toasting the rice. This is just gonna add so much more flavor. Nice and incorporated. It's only gonna take like a minute or 2 to toast. And then we're gonna deglaze with our wine, and then we start going in with the stock. Now we're gonna add in 1 cup of white wine. This is just gonna deglaze. It's gonna start the process of the rice starting to soak up liquid, but also like add so much flavor. Alcohol, like the food science behind it is when you're adding alcohol to a dish, it helps out bring out other aromas. So even though you're cooking off the alcohol, what you're doing is you're helping to like amp up the corn flavor in the dish. This is a corn risotto, this is summer risotto. You wanna be thinking whites, rosés, something super light, not oaky. So this is what we're looking like. And again, so now it becomes the process of we are going to keep stirring until all this is soaked up. And then we start adding in the corn cob stock right in here. And that's what's gonna flavor this up with all that corn flavor before we add in corn and corn puree with the coconut. Cool, so this is soaked up. It soaks up pretty fast. I'm on like medium low heat now. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna start to add in all that beautiful stock. So I'm gonna be stirring this. Meanwhile, I'm also going to start to blend our corn. So we have our blender here. Put in half of our corn. Save the rest. We're gonna add in our coconut cream. Loop. We're gonna blend. Meanwhile, I'm still stirring the risotto. Again, do this in steps if you are not me. Let's see. Let's take a look. Oh my God, it's so creamy. All right, now I am just here stirring this whole time. From now on, that is my place. Stirring. You saw me add that liquid. This is where we are now. I'm gonna give it another minute or two just until it soaks up even a little more. And then we're gonna add in our next batch of the corn cob stock. And as I'm going, I'm actually gonna start seasoning with salt now, just because I season the stock, but you wanna make sure you start building seasoning, because at the end of the day, that's gonna give you a better sense at the end when you taste it and you're like, all right, I need to adjust for salt. You would rather it be less. So don't go wild, but start to build definitely a base. And if you ever let's say your stock is running too hot on the stove and you see it start to evaporate and you still need more, just add some more water. It's like you're gonna be fine. Add some vegetable stock if you really want, truly, don't stress. You do want to make sure that you make this right before you serve it. Risotto is truly one of those things that the rice breaks up the more it gets served once it's cooked. So I'm definitely a strong believer in make a risotto, serve it. So the trick is you have a grain of rice, and when you press it, you can't really see that. You see little dots of starch. This one has 4, which means it's super al dente and needs a lot more time. Then it'll go down to 3, which will mean it still needs more time. And then once it's at 2, you're done. You gotta pull it off immediately. All right, we're down to 3 starch grains. So we're getting close, but we're not there yet. Get the last of my stock. So don't walk away, keep stirring. Just keep stirring. How long does it take stirring? About 20, 25 minutes is all you need. Throw the corn in. Now we're going in with this puree that we made. This is the coconut and corn puree that's going to add all of that body and creaminess. It's turning the risotto that gorgeous yellow color from the puree. It tastes buttery without any butter. It really doesn't taste coconutty. It just tastes like corn deliciousness, like cream corn. You could totally add Parm cheese if you wanted to. I'm keeping it vegan today, but this is what we're looking for. We want that nice, soft consistency. It should be still kind of loose because it's gonna soak up all that liquid as soon as it goes off the heat. So you always want your risotto a bit looser than you want to eat it as. And there you have it. I'm gonna take another bite. I mean, so good. So good. So if you want this recipe, you could head to thefifi.com. You'll find this recipe, so many others to use up all your beautiful summer corn and all of the recipes that you need to use up your pantry staples. A huge thank you for American Express. We love getting all of our pantry goods and groceries on our American Express Gold card. And I cannot wait to see you all next time. Have a wonderful day.